Hey everyone, it's the third Monday of the month, so we are going to get started with our kitchen connections. So our live cooking demonstration of the month. We're so glad you tuned in and joined us. This week we're going to make a pumpkin chicken chili, and we've got two different ways to do it in an electric pressure cooker like an Instant Pot, and also on the stove top. So I've kind of combined the two different styles today for you to see. So first thing I'm going to get started with is just chopping up a few more vegetables we're going to need. I've already got our onions and a few other ingredients gathered, but we're going to add some jalapeno too. So I'm just going to start by cutting the top up of my jalapeno. And to the side here, I've got this nice compost bowl, really easy to kind of keep near your cutting board and get rid of some of, or discard some of those pieces or compost those pieces you don't need. So next, I'll start by cutting it in half down the middle. And one thing I always do that I find a lot easier is just scrape out the seeds in the middle. So I've got some seeds here, and I'm just taking my spoon and scraping this out right into my bowl. So you can see here, it just comes right out and you don't have to worry about getting those seeds in. If you didn't mind the seeds and you wanted to keep the seeds in, you could just add those into your chili to give it a little extra spice, but eliminating those seeds cuts down on a little bit of the spiciness from the jalapeno. If you are really sensitive to spice, you could leave out the jalapeno completely. So we've got our jalapeno cleaned, and then we're just going to mince it really finely into some small pieces here. So flipping it over and just going to cut through. So some other ingredients in our recipe is going to be pumpkin puree, some diced yellow onions. We've also got some green bell peppers. We've got some tomato paste and some black beans. And then of course some chicken, which I've started cooking in our Instant Pot ahead of time. You could just make it a one-pot meal and cook it in your pot. But to show you the Instant Pot and to make this a little quicker of a process, I've got it cooking right behind me here. So I'm finishing up our jalapeno here. I'm gonna move on to our green pepper. A few other things I love about this recipe is it's got just some sweet and some savory. We've got a lot of different spices we're gonna add in. This is a super easy and quick one for those days like today when it's a little chillier out and we're really feeling that fall weather. So now with my green pepper, one way I always like to cut it is to start by cutting off the bottom. So I've been using a paring knife, but you may need a little bigger knife for this. And I just like to create a flat surface for it to sit. So I've cut my bottom off here. Now it can kind of sit flat. I'm going to switch back to this paring knife, and normally I cut around the top. There's a lot of different ways to cut bell peppers, but I like this because you'll see I can get rid a lot of these seeds without making a huge mess. So now I'm just going to push through the bottom here and get out a lot of those peppers. All right. Scrape some of my seeds out of the way. And then I can just kind of cut it from here, clean out any extra parts I need to. So I've got a little bit of extra seeds, some of the rims on the roots here. So we'll cut that right out. And dice this up finely as well. Now, if you didn't have green pepper on hand or jalapenos, you could use some green onions as a good substitute in this recipe. You could really use any color pepper, whether you had purple or yellow. That is our chicken going off in the background. So again, I'm just dicing this into some smaller pieces. And now I've got my bottom here, and I can also just chop this up and add it in so we don't waste any pieces of the pepper. Okay. Do we have any questions in our chat or anybody in our chat so far? I'm curious to know where you guys are tuning in and maybe some of your favorite chili recipes, or how you would change this one up to use some of those ingredients you have on hand. Now, if you didn't have a whole pepper or a whole onion, or you were only cooking for a small amount of people, you could kind of cut the ingredients in half. This is going to serve about 6 people. We've got our final 2 pepper pieces here. And while I finish this up, I'm going to go ahead and start heating up my pot as well. So we're just going to do about a medium-high heat, and we're going to cook these veggies first. And I'm turning my pressure cooker off here. Now, once my pot has heated up a little, we are going to add in some olive oil just to cook up the vegetables and soften them. Okay, got our peppers done. Got our pot heating up here. Adding some olive oil in. And we're going to start by adding our onions. And we're just going to kind of brown these and cook them until they're soft. So again, over medium-high heat, just a little olive oil so far. Now I'm going to add in my bell peppers and jalapenos as well. And here I'm starting to sizzle a little bit. Okay. So like I mentioned, lots of flavor in this recipe. We're going to have, first up is some chili powder. I'm going to go ahead and add these in to coat our vegetables. So we've got chili powder. We're going to do about 2 teaspoons. Next, after our chili powder, we're going to do a teaspoon of cumin. Making sure I read my spices here carefully so we don't add too much of the wrong thing. So about a teaspoon of cumin. Give these a stir here, start to get our vegetables coated. This has a lot of flavors and a lot of seasonings to it. So we're going to see some really good color at the end in this chili as well. After our cumin, we've got some paprika. We use about a half a teaspoon of paprika. After our paprika, we're going to use about a 1/4 teaspoon of some ground sage. And you can vary up these spices. Take some out or add some different ones you have on hand and that you like. I think some Italian seasonings would go really well in this as well. And our last 2 seasonings is we're going to do, well, 3, garlic powder, some ground cinnamon, and just a little bit of cayenne pepper. So this recipe does call for some minced garlic, but I didn't have any on hand today, so I'm just going to use the garlic powder instead. Add a little bit more oil in here. I'll probably do about a teaspoon of garlic powder. A little bit more. Knocking everything over here, but of course we're going to add our final, some cinnamon, and then just a little bit of cayenne pepper to give us a little bit of spice. Now again, if you don't like spice, you can leave this one out. Okay, now it's starting to smell really good in here already. We're going to combine all the spices and seasonings together and keep just sauteing here for about a minute or so. And then we're going to move on and add our chicken broth. We're going to add our pumpkin puree, our tomato paste, and our black beans as well. So this is a pretty easy recipe to get all the ingredients together. And then you're really just going to kind of let it simmer and thicken up. So we're going to add about 3 cups of chicken broth here. And this is about a 2 cup. So we've got 2, and then we'll just add 1 more. All right. Smelling good and looking pretty good in here already. We're gonna add our black beans in. Now these were just regular canned black beans. I think you could add some white beans or some kidney beans or even pinto beans, and they would be really delicious in this recipe. We just rinsed and drained our black beans just to kind of get rid of some of the sodium and the salt content. Okay, next gonna add our pumpkin puree in. Again, this was just a canned pumpkin puree. We did the 100% pumpkin, so it doesn't have any added sugar in it as opposed to like a pumpkin pie filling. Pumpkin has a lot of really great vitamins and minerals. So this will add, you know, a lot of really good nutrients to our soup. And for all those pumpkin lovers out there, some really good, very slight pumpkin flavor. And you can tell it's kind of thickened up our chili here for us too. So we've got our pumpkin. And now if you like picking pumpkins to eat in the process of pureeing a homemade pumpkin, we do recommend it's about a pound of pumpkin, or you'll get about a cup of puree for every pound of pumpkin. There are some specific pumpkins you want to look for, and you can just roast them and cut them in half, and then you puree what you have left. So looking really delicious here. Now I'm going to add in my tomato paste. I did add in the whole can of tomato paste just to make it really simple. It can be a little annoying to get a full can of pumpkin paste and the recipe only calls for like a teaspoon and you're stuck with some leftovers. So I just use the whole can. And again, giving us a really thick look to our chili. It smells so good in here already. I'm really excited for this to be our lunch later. And then we're just gonna let this kind of come to a boil, and then we'll let it simmer. And it won't need to simmer long because we pre-cooked our chicken ahead of time. So that part you don't really have to worry about. If you wanted, you could place your raw chicken into the chili, and after it boils, you would let it simmer for around 20 minutes or so, or until the internal temperature of your chicken gets to that 165 degrees. So I'm going to remove our chicken from our Instant Pot behind us. Letting some of the steam out. And the electric pressure cookers or multi-cookers are just a really easy way to cook food a little quickly. I really like it for chicken because you can even put it in there starting from frozen. Okay. Now I'm just putting on my chicken breast on a clean plate, and I'm gonna shred it a little. Luckily, our chicken, from the high pressure and the high temperatures of our Instant Pot, it's already pretty shredded, so it really won't take me long, and I can just go ahead and add it into our pot. So I just used some thinly sliced chicken breast. You could also use some thighs for this recipe. I can see our soup starting to simmer a little, so I'm going to turn it down some here and just cover it. Okay, so like I mentioned, this chicken is shredding really easily, so it's not really taking much for us. And I did season it with just a little bit of salt and pepper, so I haven't added any salt and pepper to my chili. So again, really easy to shred here. And you wouldn't have to add it. You could add ground turkey, or you don't even necessarily need a protein for this chili. If you wanted to make it more of a thinner soup also, or just like a pureed soup, you could use an immersion blender or some kind of blender or hand mixer to smooth out the ingredients. So kind of get rid of some of those chopped veggies. Okay, so we've got our chicken shredded here, and I'm just gonna add it right to our pot. Like I mentioned, it's got this really pretty kind of like rust color to it, so we can tell it's got some of the orange from the pumpkin in there, but it doesn't look overwhelmingly orange. So adding our cooked chicken and shredded chicken right into the pot, and we're gonna mix it in here. Now, if you wanted your chili a little thinner, you could add some extra chicken broth. And you can see our chicken is shredding even a little further, really getting stirred into the mix. You can see the black beans and that jalapeno and bell pepper adding some nice green color to it. And now our recipe is pretty much done here. This is a nice, really quick and easy one for dinner during a weeknight. You can freeze it, and you can also use it as, refrigerate it for a few days and leave it as leftovers. So I definitely recommend you trying this soup out to let our flavors incorporate even more. I would probably let it simmer a little while longer, but I do want to go ahead and show you just how delicious this soup looks here. We have some cilantro and some green onions I forgot to grab out of the fridge, but would make some really great toppings, and even some Greek yogurt. So instead of sour cream, I normally go for a non-fat plain Greek yogurt. Still gives it that flavor and that creaminess, and cutting down a little bit on those calories and saturated fat and added sugars. So let us know if you try out the recipe. We hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for joining us for our kitchen connection.